So a big question for this morning is, who are you? Who are you? When I was in the Marine Corps, they would ask, and I've told this story before, who are you? And there was one of two answers, and I never knew which one was the right answer, but you could say, I am Brad Perry, and give them your name, or you could say, I am. They would say that my name is my name, and I can't say I am, but I am Corporal Perry, identified by rank and last name. And when you think about the people in your life, those people that you know, and that know you, who would they say that you are? Would they say you are identified by what you do? You're a school teacher, or you're a mechanic. You're a preacher. By the way that you look. Well, you're hot or not. A lot of times we're identified just on the outward appearance of things or just by our actions and what we do. And so I would imagine, when we think about David at 13 or 14, coming onto the battlefield, the army, he's not old enough to be there. He's really got no role to play other than delivering food. Who everybody else thought, annoying little brother. Who's that punk kid walking around talking big? The shepherd boy. At that moment, nobody there would have thought this little dude is going to come in and he's going to fight a giant. But it's exactly what happened. And he went, and I love 1 Samuel 17, verse 48, says this. This is highlighted and underlined in my Bible, that David ran quickly into the battlefield. He ran quickly into the battlefield. And I love that idea. He didn't hesitate. He didn't stop. He didn't think about, hey, here's what I'm doing, here's what I'm not doing. Listen to verse 48, chapter 17, 1 Samuel. When the Philistine, being Goliath, so when Goliath started forward to attack David, David ran quickly to the battle line to meet him. Well, we've been going through this story for 4 weeks. This is the 5th week now. So, if we back up a little bit and we think about what we've seen, we know that all of us are going to face some Goliaths in our lives. All of us are going to have some issues, and those issues take on different looks, different feels. Your Goliath may be different than my Goliath. We even talked about how the nation of Israel, the battle lines were drawn on this side, the battle lines were drawn on this side with the Philistines. There were all kinds of problems. But there was that one glaring problem that came out. Every day. He didn't quit coming out. He kept showing up. He kept showing up. And in 1 Samuel 17, 1 through 11, we just kind of talked about that we all face a Goliath. Well, we're not asking you to stand up and say yours out loud, but we all got problems. And it can be something small and simple. I'm getting old. I hurt a little bit when I get up in the morning. It could be something terrible. I have relationships in my life that are falling apart. I'm in financial trouble. I struggle with addiction. I'm worried about my teenage children. But none of us are void of issues. Paul writes in chapter 3, the book he wrote to the Romans, and he says, all have sinned. All have missed the mark. All have fell short of God's glory. We all have issues. And when you start dealing with your issues, there's going to be some people in your life that just don't want you to engage. They don't want you to straighten up because they like eating popcorn, watching the mess. They don't want you to get right because then it's going to make them feel even more wrong. There's a whole lot of reasons why. But when you begin to say, hey, I need to get this thing together, Satan's going to use other people in your life. He's going to manipulate them, and you're going to have opposition. In the case of David, it was his older brother, Eliab. What are you doing here, you arrogant little punk? Who's watching the sheep? You just come to watch the fight. I know you. Eliab didn't want little David having any part of this thing. And when you start making changes in your life, there's going to be people who come in and they're not going to want you to change. They're not going to want you to make an impact in your community. They just want you to keep doing the same old, same old. There's going to be opposition. And the other thing is when you start making, well, won't you do it when I was, or do it like this. King Saul called David. David said, what's going to happen? I'll go out and find him. King Saul calls David into his tent. And he says, okay, you're going to go where do it the way I would do it. Comparisons. And we all get caught up in some of that. We got that person. We want to follow that person. You're created uniquely. I don't know if you know that, understand that. There's nobody like you. God has gifted you. He has, before the foundations of the world, this is in the book of Galatians, he set a work apart just for you. You don't need to be like anybody else. You just need to be you. Because God created you to be you. I don't have to follow the comparisons of other people, because when I do, it'll paralyze who I am. When I talk to young people about, finding somebody to spend the rest of their life with, think about that. I mean, you go back in time, your first date with your spouse, or that person that is, oh, I love them. That is never a good thing, think about it. What do we do? First date. One of my first dates. We're going to go out to dinner. Well, you can't talk because you got food in your mouth, or if you do, you're spitting it all over, or that's a hot mess. And then we go to a movie where if you talk, then somebody says, shh, I'm trying to watch the movie. And then if you get mad at that person for shushing you, then you look terrible and mean and hateful, and then she don't like you then. It's a no-win situation, isn't it, Emma? Yeah, think about it. We get all dressed up so they don't know who we really are. And I would say can we just be who God created us to be? Just be us. But we're afraid to do that. And fear paralyzes us. It does. David did not have any of those issues. Goliath is still screaming and yelling out the threats, cursing the God of the Israelites, our God. Come on out. I will feed your bones to the birds. Can you imagine being 13 or 14? Now, I don't know about y'all. I don't know who's the brave gentleman in the room. Brave guys, I'm not afraid of nothing. All right, little dude back there, yeah, there you go. When I was 13 or 14, I was a chicken. I was scared of most everything. And I still got a pretty good list of things that I don't like, I'm just guessing, knowing who I am. If I'm 13 or 14-year-old little Brad with his mullet back in the day, and there's a 9-foot giant yielding a spear and a sword, cursing at me, my reaction is probably not going to be, I run to the battlefield quickly. I can't imagine what was racing through David's mind. But in the midst of that, it simply says, when Goliath, the Philistine, started forward to attack David, David ran quickly. David ran quickly to the battlefield. I want to read 2 Corinthians chapter 3. It says this: such confidence we have through Christ before God. Such confidence we have through Christ So our confidence comes through Jesus in front of God. Not that we are competent in ourselves to claim anything for ourselves, but our competence, our confidence comes from God himself. David didn't run into that battlefield in his own power. And whatever your Goliath is, whatever that struggle is in your life, if you run headlong into it in your own power, it will defeat you. It will beat you down. But if you run out in the name and the power of the one who is holy, 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 then you can defeat Goliath. If you read through, pulls out one of those stones and he hurls it at Goliath with his sling. And it hits him in the temple, forehead area. Kills him instantly. David don't have a sword, so he takes Goliath's sword and he chops off the head of Goliath. Now, if you read through this, now I mean, I missed this the first few times I read through it, but it talks about he goes and hides Goliath's weapons, puts Goliath's weapons in the tent, and he walks around with Goliath's head. I mean, it's like, I got a handful of hair here, and I'm just walking around with this dude's head. I mean, what kind of confidence is that? We're talking 13, 14. That would scare me today, and I'm not 13, 14. But at 13, he's walking around, and he's having a conversation with people carrying a head. He's defeated Goliath. And I want, as we wrap up this series, I just want us to understand we don't face Goliath alone. And God uses every one of those conflicts and problems and struggles in our life to make us stronger for the next one, or to make us stronger for somebody in our lives. I would say this, there are a lot of people in my life that I have loved on and supported and mentored and tried to help because I had already been through the struggle that they were going through. There's a lot, as a wrestling coach, as a guy with Fellowship of Christian Athletes, there are a lot of mean teenage boys that I talk to because I was a mean teenage boy. I understand it. I know the struggle. We can relate. And God doesn't waste your struggles. Doug Fields was a very popular youth minister, and he would always say, God never wastes a scar. Where there's pain, where there's struggle, God's going to use it. Paul, the Apostle Paul, said it this way: all things, even the bad ones, work together for the good of those who are called to God's purpose. Even the bad things. So this morning, I don't know what you're going through in your life. I don't know what your struggle is. But I really believe that first point, we all have one. We all have one. So I just want to give you some tips this morning. How do I face my Goliath? How do I get through those days when Satan is just on me? How do I overcome that constant nagging temptation to do what I know I shouldn't do? And it starts with this. Ephesians chapter 2, verse 19. Know who you are. So then, you are no longer strangers or aliens, but you are fellow citizens with the saints. You are members of the household of God. I think there's a lot of people going to church today that don't realize who they are in Christ Jesus. David, when he ran into the battlefield, he knew it wasn't a shepherd boy going into the fight. He knew it wasn't the food delivery guy going into the fight. He knew it wasn't baby brother going into the fight. He was a child of God going into that battle with Goliath as a warrior. He might have been a 13-year-old small, puny little warrior, but he was still a warrior nonetheless. Don't miss who God has called you to be. Paul says it in Ephesians, but the Apostle John, as he's introducing Jesus in John chapter 1, he says this, he, speaking of Jesus, he was in the world, and the world was made through him, yet the world did not know him. He came to his own people, and his own people did not recognize or receive him. And then he goes on to say this, but to all who did receive him. That's you and me, isn't it? If you've received Jesus, you've surrendered to him. John's talking to us. To all who did receive him, those who believed in his name, he gave the right, not the privilege, the right to become children of God, who were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but they were born of God. Do you know who you are? I'm not much in and of myself, but I'm a child of God, and I know what he can do. I'm a child of the creator of the universe. He spoke and the world began. He said, let there be light when there was nothing to produce light, but light still happened. He parted the Red Sea so his people could walk through it. He built a nation out of 100-year-old man and his 99-year-old wife who couldn't have kids. And out of it, Israel came and he gave his one and only begotten son, not so he can condemn me, but so that he could save me. He did all that for me. He did all that for you. Do you know who you are? Church, I just really believe a lot of us are thinking way too small. Way too small. And it's not, let me go back to 2 Corinthians because I don't want to sound arrogant. It's not my competence. It's not my confidence. It's my surrendering to God. You know, by ourselves, we're not able to do a whole lot. But through the power of God, we are. He is able to do immeasurably more than we could ask or imagine. Do you know who you are? And don't let fear stop you. As the nation of Israel was going into the promised land, Joshua said, do not be afraid. God goes in front of us. God told them that. I'm going in. He actually said, if you've been coming to Wednesday night Bible study, we've been talking about going through the Old Testament, how God's people went into the promised land. And one of the things, I'm giving you this land. All they had to do is go get it. Don't be afraid. Fear paralyzes so many of us. And a lot of times, our fears, our struggles, and our sin, our compromises, they define who we are. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to step out and follow God's plan for your life. Don't be afraid to make a statement. Don't be afraid to say his name, because he will never leave you. He will never forsake you. And in 1 Corinthians, he actually tells us, I'm always there. I know a lot of times when I'm fighting those battles, when I'm going through those issues, I feel like I'm the only one that's doing it. Anybody ever felt that way? Now, I got this thing going on, nobody else knows. I mean, I've even talked to some people like, you don't know. I'm like, you don't know that I don't know, because maybe I do. But I know for me, when I'm going through those struggles, it feels like nobody else has ever been through this. Nobody else knows how I feel. Nobody else understands. God tells us that no temptation is given to man that is not common to man. And when there is a temptation, there is a way out. It's just whether or not we'll run to the battlefield quickly to show God how much he's worth to us. Whether or not I'll fight Goliath or whether or not I'll surrender to him. You're not alone in your struggle. You are not isolated in your struggle, because our God will never leave us. He'll never forsake us. And in the midst of that struggle, God is preparing me for my future. In the midst of that struggle, He's preparing me to be who He wants me to be and do what He wants me to do. And in the end, He's prepared for me an eternal home. This is just a moment. This is just a moment. He's preparing me for eternity. I mentioned this in the offering. What would it profit a man if he gained the whole world, but he forfeited his soul? What would you gain if you got everything you ever wanted for the 75, 80, 85 years here on earth, but you lost eternity? I want to fight for eternity. And I know the battle's already won because Jesus has already defeated death. He's already defeated sin. I have to live victorious. Satan, he's going to step up. He don't want me to win. So I got to get in the fight. Now, for those of you who are really struggling with something right now, God is with you. He's not abandoned you. You are not alone. And it may feel that way. But where you're struggling, God has prepared a way out. No temptation has taken man except that which is common to man. Know who you are. You are loved. You are chosen. You are set apart for eternity. Don't be afraid. Don't look at other people and say, I got to do it the way they do it. Look at other people and say, can you come alongside of who I am, a child of God? Be you. And don't give up. The fight is worth it. If you're here today, I want this to be your encouragement. We're going to sing this last song and have a time of prayer. Paul writes to the church at Corinth. He says, therefore, my dear brothers and sisters, stand firm. Stand firm. In your struggle, stand firm. Let nothing move you. Always give yourselves fully to the work of the Lord, because you know that your labor in the Lord is not in vain. Goliath's out there. He's calling your name. Don't let him wait. Don't let him wait. I'll face you. Let's stand and sing together.